what gold has lacked for so long was just, a little more credibility, and to realize that it's not just people at the margins that are concerned about this, or not just people at the margins that really think this is the solution, but that this is, the logical answer given the problems we have.
And also founded from a constitutional basis that this is what the system is supposed to be, in terms of what the Constitution says and how it was put into effect with the Coinage Act of 1792.
Yeah, I think we found Article 1, Section 10 to be very helpful, so we're not relying on the 10th Amendment, which then puts you in a more marginal camp. The Coinage Act and have not been the key selling points. The legislators tend to be sensitive to what will or won't get a constitutional note within their states, we found, and are not every state legislator, as you can imagine, is not an expert in the history of, monetary policy. And so some of the historical nuances aren't the key things driving the legislation's legitimacy in a particular state. But I think the clear constitutional right of states to take these steps is a very powerful argument that does give them a lot of cover. I think that gives them a real comfort level with the steps that they've been willing to take.
Mm-hmm. The states where you've been involved, have you found the support fairly broad-based among the populace of those states, or the population of those states, or is it narrowly focused with just very powerful interest, smaller interest group that's bringing about this legislation? You have any experience in that regard?
Yeah, we've done some polling. So what we found is that self-identified members of the Tea Party are quite well informed about issues of monetary history and problems regarding the Fed, and a solid majority of them want fundamental reform of the monetary system and the Fed, and that even in the aggregate we see of likely voters, 40+% that want some structural reform of the Federal Reserve. Now, how structural reform of the Federal Reserve translates into precise legislation, does that mean a single mandate, or does that mean the gold standard, or does that mean something in between? There's still a lot of wiggle room out there. You don't have quite the opposition at the state level from the business community that you do at the federal level. So whereas there's a number of very interested parties in keeping monetary policy easy and suppressing in the short term the amplitude of the business cycle, that they believe that monetary ease or the ability of the Federal Reserve to act does. You saw the Chamber of Commerce very active in defending QE1 and QE2. You don't see that at the state level because the states are not the direct beneficiaries of Federal Reserve action, because the Federal Reserve is, at least thus far, not bailing out states.
Also, perhaps there's a more direct relationship between the legislators at the state level and the population than there might be at the federal level.
I suppose that's true. I myself am not. I run a fund here in the city with my partner, so I'm not on the ground in these state capitals doing this. But I think they're certainly closer to their voter than the congressman living in Washington.